never have enough time to play it all.
Hey guys, welcome back to Otter Creek in Rio Grande. I've got a few things that I'm going to try and accomplish in this video. I don't know that it's what you would call an update, but I've got 2 or 3 different things that need to be taken care of. So this time of year, when I transition from the air conditioner to the heater, this kind of thing tends to occur. And, so most of the railroad, that's coming from the West End staging yard up to a frying pan that I built, I think I'm going on 2.5, 3 years now, I'm not sure. But most of that's been there a while. It's gone through 2 seasons for sure. Hot to cold, cold to hot, yada, yada. Nothing has occurred this year with any of that track. Now this track is the most recently laid, and you can see that there's some wonkiness right here where the rail is. So all I need to do is go in and cut somewhere between this joint and the next one that way, and then introduce just a little bit of a gap there somewhere so that you can get a little expansion and contraction in the line. We've got the same situation here, and it'll be the same fix somewhere up here. I just need to introduce a little bit of expansion. And then the next place is right back here, which is probably the hardest hit. And all of this is the first time I think I started with this section early in the spring. So it's only ever had air conditioning pretty much up to this point. So that's for sure something that needs to take place. And the next thing, right in here, I had a similar issue where the track expanded and kind of made some goofiness. And none of this has really been, I would say, completed, even in my mind, exactly how the track was going to be. And I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to do now. I've finished the grain elevator. I know that's where I want it to be. So I plan on finishing up the rest of this area in here. And I think I'm going to build a foundation for the grain elevator. I need to figure out what's going to go on with the cork and the elevation of the track through here. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to go, but that's kind of the focus of what I'm going to do in this video. In addition to all of that, I also either need to tweak this turnout. It's caused me no problems all summer long, and then as soon as I turn the heater on, all of a sudden it's really out of gauge. So I'm either going to, I'm for sure going to remove it from the layout and take a look at it and see if there's anything that's an easy fix by maybe adding extra sleepers, or I may go ahead and just rebuild the whole thing and do a little bit better job of it. This is a custom turnout that I tried to build on top of standard gauge template and did my best. I've now got a new method, which, if you've seen any of my previous videos, you kind of have an idea where I'm going with that. I don't think I'm going to include any of that in this video. I might show some pictures. We'll just see how it goes. But I want to get all this figured out and get it to where I can run trains again, because right now I can't run trains. So here we go. So when I laid all of this track, I laid it and used matte medium as my glue to lay the track. And I've gone in and I've cut the rails with a razor saw right here. And I've saturated this whole area from there back with alcohol. And it's set, I don't know, maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes. And it's breaking loose. Hopefully without doing any damage to the cork. I probably should have let it set a little bit longer. It looks like I didn't go all the way through that plastic tie there. All right, that's very promising. I don't see any damage to the cork. I just need to finish cutting through that plastic tie right there. All right, there we go. Now I'll introduce a couple of rail joiners here that I will not solder and leave a gap between the rails. I've heard a business card distance, you know, the width of a business card or a credit card. That's probably what I'm going to do and continue on from there. This section right here is taken care of. Now I haven't glued it back down. I'm going to let that alcohol completely dry up before I go in with any matte medium. But I'll point out something kind of cool. You know, the second I cut this, I believe it really relaxed all of the rail through here. So now there's not a need for me to cut anything in here right now. So I'm just gonna glue this down and weigh it and call it good and kind of see how the rest of the winter goes. And hopefully I won't have to mess with this again this year, and then we'll see, you know, what happens next year. So in case you're one of those people that's still kind of on the ropes of whether or not I should use matte medium as an adhesive, because maybe it's not as strong as other adhesives, which I think is an accurate statement, I'll point out something else. I missed this one. And you can see, again, this is matte medium, and it held fast to the cork, but I had such a kink in it that it actually broke the plastic ties along the rails. So this one's going to be a fun one to fix. I'm still not entirely sure how I'm going to go about doing it. I'm going to cut it up there. And then back here, you know, where I pointed out earlier, and then kind of see if I can massage those rails back to where they need to be. My guess is I'm going to have to cut out all of that plastic there and maybe go in with PCB ties. That's what I'm leaning towards at the moment, because that's pretty nasty right there. And all of this radius underneath the proposed mountain, that has to be bulletproof. I want it to be, you know, something that I just don't have to mess with ever again. So for anyone who's wondered why I haven't done any scenery, well, this is why. Could you imagine having to deal with any of this with scenery already on top of it? You know, if I've jumped the gun and gone, oh boy, let's do scenery, without seeing what the track is going to do from year to year, that's just one of those reasons why you might not want to do scenery if you've got a lot of track. I'm not suggesting that I might not deal with it even after I have scenery, but I definitely want to see what it's going to do season to season before I do any scenery. What I've done is I've gone ahead and put a gap in here. I've just cut it clean there. And then I also pulled the track off on the backside there. So I've got a little bit of give and take there. And I pulled back, you know, just a little bit on these tracks there. I just, you know, grabbed hold of them and pulled just very gently and got all of that track to move this way. and it relieved most of the pressure down here. Let me show you. So I'm loose down there, and after pulling the track, this is what I'm looking at right here, which is much better. Now I've got all of this through here, probably a foot or so, maybe 18 inches. I've got it soaking with alcohol right now, and the ties that are damaged, I'm going to completely remove them, and I'm going to glue some PCB ties onto the cork and then solder to the PCB ties. I hope that works. My concern with that is that there will be no give and take, obviously, on either side of those PCB ties. So that might end up being a bad idea. I don't know. I really don't want to cut the rail there, because introducing a rail joiner on a radius is just, it's not fun. That's the reason why everything is soldered. You know, it's all a learning experience. What I should have done is, after I got everything glued, it was dried, in the straightaway right in here where I've now cut it, I should have cut it there a long time ago, and I might not be doing what I'm doing now. So word to the wise, that might be a good idea if you've gone in and soldered all of your rail on a radius. Make sure you leave an expansion gap on either side of your rail and a straightaway somewhere where it's easy to work on. Everything seemed to work well. I can now run trains again all the way from the east to the west, so let's move on to the next project. I didn't need to end up replacing this entire turnout. I just went in with my standards gauge and figured out exactly where the problem was, and it was right in through here. I'm not sure how it happened, but I ended up being really out of gauge through this area. So I just introduced a little more of a radius in the point here, and I desoldered here and here and brought everything in, and it seems to have fixed everything. It seems odd that that was not an issue, 3 months ago, and now all of a sudden it is. But everything seems to be working pretty good now. My primary goal here is to take care of the track work, that has been just done on a very temporary basis here. I haven't liked any of this, but I wanted to make sure, it was going to kind of work operationally, and I'm fairly happy with the way it's working. Now, everything in this area is really hinged on what takes place with the Muckawonga mill. And because that is not in any kind of high state of finishment, if that is the correct term, and I know it's not, there's just still a lot of unknowns there. So what is the scenery going to look like through here, and how is that going to impact this area? Really what I want to do is get the grain elevator where I can take it off and on some kind of base plate, and then shore up all of this track in such a way that trains can run on it reliably. But at the same time, I still have the flexibility to move this thing around several more times, because I'm thinking that the mill will probably come this way a little bit more before it's all said and done. I really won't know until I get the high line put in, which will be a priority at the beginning of next year. So I'm going to remove this track and then try and get cork and stuff laid in here in a way that makes all of this a little bit more permanent. I think I've got everything where I want it. At least that's my belief at the moment. So I've got 4 cars here just to kind of see, spatially how it would work. If I understand right, and it's been a while since my dad talked to me about his experience working at the elevator, but as I recall, there should be a winch down at this end. So the train has pulled all of the full cards out and pushed the empties in. So the first empty here has to get filled, and then you hook a winch to this, and then you pull it forward until the next car is ready to load, so on and so forth. So you always need room down at this end so that you can get all the cars pulled. And so 4 cars would be more than enough, I think, for my purposes. That's more than half of a train, or right at about half of a train for me. So if that works, then I'm gonna go with that. I did check my clearances down here, so everything looks like it's gonna work. I left enough room on the back side that I can drive a car around, because that's the other thing I'm thinking about, is how does someone get to it. And I'm thinking right here somewhere, there'll be a road, you know, probably maybe just at the end of the tracks there, that you're gonna drive through and then loop around. I don't think I'm gonna continue the road further that way. I think it'll just be a loop around and come back is what I'm thinking at the moment. So now I just need to kind of glue everything in and cut that piece of plywood back there and get it all ready to go. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done in here, obviously. I didn't mention it, but I'm gonna try and introduce some kind of drainage ditch here. I don't know how that's gonna work, but I want something visually in here besides just, you know, weeds and grass. So I think that's gonna be it for this particular video. I sure appreciate you guys watching. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you later on down the road at Otter Creek and Rio Grande.